These are the reports which made headlines last week. Justice Mohammed of the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday withdrew from the fundamental right enforcement suit instituted by the Revolution Now protest convener Omoyele Sowore, seeking an order for his release from custody of the Department of State Service. There have been no fresh charges instituted against Sowore since he was rearrested by the operatives of the DSS on December 6, barely 24 hours of being released from the agency's detention lasting over a month. But Justice Mohammed ruled on Monday that he could not hear Showore's case filed on December 10, saying it was the fair, just and proper thing to do in view of the previous publications by Showore's medium Sahara reporters accusing him of taking bribe in a case to influence the outcome of his case. The case in question is a trial of a former governor of Benue State, Senator Gabriel Suswam, who is now being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) before another judge of the court, Justice Okon Abeng. Justice Mohammed noted on Monday that the reports by Sahara reporters in 2016 and 2019 made him to withdraw from the ex-governor's trial. He recalled that when the first report was published in 2016, he was prevailed upon by the prosecution and defense teams to continue with the case. He said on continuing with the case, a similar report was published in June this year. He said the situation put him in a situation whereby if he ruled in favor of Sowore, it could be perceived as having been blackmailed by him to so rule, and that in the event that he ruled against the activist, he could be perceived as being vengeful. Justice Mohammed, who will be sitting as a vacation judge until the court resumes from its Christmas and New Year vacation in January, had earlier at the Monday's proceedings sought lawyers appearing in the case to comment on the implication of the previous report by Sahara reporters on what the public perception would be in respect of his handling of the Showore's case. On returning from a short break to hear the lawyers, counsel to Sowore, Femi Falano, SAN, who said he was aware of the publications referred to by Justice Mohammed, noted that in view of the judge's observations, it was proper for the judge to withdraw from the case. Gunmen in the early hours of Tuesday attacked the Otuoke country home of former President Goodluck Jonathan in Ogwia local government area of Bayelsa State. Jonathan or any member of his family was not hurt in the armed invasion. He was said to have escaped unhurt in the attack, which some community persons are suspecting was an assassination attempt on the former president. However, one of the security operatives guarding the resident was feared dead in the attack. Still on Tuesday, the Department of State Services finally complied with the court orders directing it to release the convener of Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore, from custody. Omoyele's release came a few hours after the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abuka Malami SAN, said in a statement on Tuesday that he had issued a directive to the DSS to release the Sahara reporter's publisher and the immediate past National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki. Malami said his directive followed the decision of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration to comply with the court orders granting bail to the two men. Sowore was violently rearrested at the Federal High Court in Abuja by operatives of the DSS on December 6, barely 24 hours after he was released from detention that lasted over 4 months. Journalists from various media houses saw Sowore after he was released from the custody of the DSS at the agency's headquarters in Abuja at about 6:20 p.m. on Tuesday. Dasuki, who had been detained by the agency since December 2015, was also released on Tuesday. The governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, on Wednesday banned persons of opposite genders from entering same commercial tricycles across the state from January 2020. Ganduje announced the ban at the closing ceremony of the 77th Annual Islamic Vacation Course, IVC, organized by Zone A of the Muslim Society of Nigeria, MSSN, held at Bayero University, Kano. The governor was represented by Commander General of Hisbah Board, Harun Ibn Sina. He said the state government was committed towards upholding Islamic values. Commercial tricycles were introduced by former governor of Kano, Ibrahim Shekarau, as a means of transportation for women only. This was after Shekarau's government banned commercial motorcyclists from conveying women. Since Shekarau's exit as governor, however, tricycles have been allowed to carry people of both sexes, a move the state government has now said will be changed. On Thursday, a former governorship candidate of the Action Democratic Party ADP in Lagos State, Babatunde Gbadamosi, said a statement on the release of Omoyele Sowore and Sambo Dasuki was quoted out of context. Gbadamosi was reported to have said they were released to divert the attention of Nigerians from the unsuccessful attempt on the life of ex-President Goodluck Jonathan, which happened a few hours earlier. Speaking with journalists on Thursday in Lagos, Gbadamosi said his tweet was just an opinion and a suspicion, not a statement of fact. He said, quote, "This was simply my personal opinion and observation. I was quoted out of context. I felt like the government might want to douse tension that might be generated from the attack on Jonathan by focusing the public attention on the release of the two gentlemen while carrying out the investigation on the incident at Otuoke. What I simply stated was an opinion, a suspicion to which I am entitled to. And if the public spaces become one where an opinion cannot be stated, then we really are in trouble in this country. My opinion should have generated a public discussion, but certain elements in authority seem to think otherwise. This kind of intolerance does not belong to a democracy." End of quote. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, on Friday explained that the release of a former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki, and Sahara Reporters publisher, Omoyele Sowore, from detention was due to the federal government's compassion for the duo. Dasuki spent more than 4 years under custody of the Department of State Services, while Sowore, the convener of Revolution Now protest, was held for almost 5 months. According to a statement by the AGF spokesperson, Dr. Umar Gwandu on Friday, who quoted Malami in an interview with the BBC Hausa and the Hausa service of the Voice of America, the reason for the release of Dasuki and Sowore owes also to the commitment to the rule of law, obedience to court orders. He stated that both men had multiple options after the court's ruling, either to appeal or review the order. Malami denied the claim that his office received any formal communication from any American senator on the matter, stating that it was not due to any domestic or international pressure on the federal government. He maintained that the federal government has the right to keep detaining the suspect while challenging the order admitting them to bail up to the apex court.